Hello everyone, my name is Matt, also known as the Survivor Guy, and today I'm going to show you how to build Survivor's 3-tiered tower puzzle using common household items.
Where you will use those keys to unlock and then solve a 3-tier Survivor puzzle.
This puzzle, which some fans have called Michele's Tower after the Survivor player Michele, who won it twice, and also because it's a lot easier to say than 3-tiered tower puzzle, is one that I've wanted to try for a while. And if you look online, there are plenty of options to either buy this puzzle from someone or to 3D print this puzzle. But if you, like me, don't have $60 to $70 to drop on buying a puzzle, or thousands of dollars to drop on a 3D printer, there is a cheaper way to make this puzzle. It might not be as fancy, but it works. Here's how I did it. So the first thing that I did is I rewatched a bunch of old episodes of Survivor and took pictures of the puzzle itself so that I could try and figure out the size and the amount of pieces that I would need to build the puzzle. Once I figured out how many and what size pieces you need to make this puzzle, I thought to myself, well, what do I have around the house that I could use to replicate those pieces? And something that I, as well as probably everyone watching this video, have a plethora of is toilet paper or paper towel rolls. So I saved up a bunch of toilet paper rolls and paper towel rolls for about a month and a half. I live with my girlfriend, so the two of us combined used enough paper products in a month and a half to get us all the tubes that we need. If you live by yourself, it might take you a bit longer. If you have a big family, you can probably get it done in a couple weeks. Once you have all of your rolls gathered up, you are going to need to cut them into specific sizes. So here is a graphic that I made of what sizes you're gonna need for which part of the puzzle. So what I did, it took a very long time, it was very tedious, but I gathered up all of my toilet paper rolls and my paper towel rolls. I got out my tape measure, I got a Sharpie, a pair of scissors. I started with the biggest pieces because you need the least amount of them and because you need the bigger rolls to make them. Got out my tape measure, measured out the size that I need, cut, and then rinse and repeat for each one. So you're gonna need one 3-inch piece, 5 2.5-inch pieces, 12 2-inch pieces, 21 1.5-inch pieces that took forever to cut out, and 19 1-inch pieces. Now, this scale is a bit smaller than what they use on Survivor. If you want it to be true to life, you're probably gonna wanna double all of those measurements. But if you double the measurements, you double the amount of materials you need, which means you double the amount of time it takes to get those materials. So my version is small, but it's good enough for our purposes today. Once you have all of your tubes cut up, the next thing you need is the circular part that goes on the top of each of your tiers. So in order to make this, I got some cardboard that I have left over from a cardboard box. If you order things online and have them shipped, you should have plenty of those lying around. Again, month and a half is all it took me to gather the materials. So you can take your piece of cardboard from your cardboard box, take a plate, trace the plate with a Sharpie. I tried first cutting it with scissors, but that was a pain in the butt. It did not cut very well. So instead I got out my sharp knife and I traced the circle with that knife. It's worth noting, if you're gonna do this on the floor like me and you don't wanna cut up your floor, you can get like a cutting board or another piece of cardboard, anything to put underneath it so that your floor isn't ruined. Once you have your 4 discs cut up, one for the bottom, one for the top of the first tier, top of the second, top of the third, what you're gonna wanna do is take a Sharpie or a pen, pencil, anything you got, and draw 6 about equally spaced dots to show where each of your columns will be. This isn't really a required step, but they do it on Survivor, so if you want to be as authentic as possible, you might want to just throw those on there. So at this point, you should have all the materials you need to make your puzzle, so your 4 circular discs, and all of your tiny pieces of your tubes. Once you have all of your pieces assembled, now you need to separate those pieces for each of your 3 tiers of the puzzle. So in Survivor, they get a bag that they open first, second, third, so we need to do that same thing. For the bags, I just got some reusable grocery bags that I had, labeled them 1, 2, and 3. Each of your 3 bags should get one of those circular discs. And once you put the circular discs in, here is the graphic for what you need for each of your 3 tiers. So your first one should have 1 1-inch piece, 6 1.5-inch ones, 5 2-inch, and 4 2.5-inch. Tier 2 should be 9 1-inch, 5 1.5-inch, 4 2-inch, 1 2.5, and 1 3-inch piece. And then tier 3, your top tier, 9 1-inch pieces, 10 1.5, and 3 2-inch pieces. Alright, so our puzzle is finally all set up, so now it's time to test it. Going into this, I don't have a whole lot of strategy. I know that each column needs to be 5 inches tall, so hopefully I can remember how tall each piece is and make sure they add up to 5. But other than that, I don't really have a definitive strategy going in. I'm hoping that by trying this, I can figure out a few things and then pass that knowledge on to you. Survivors ready? Go! Alright, so I've got my first bag here. Dump that out, hopefully nothing falls on the floor. Make sure that the bag is actually empty. Don't want to end up like, what was his name, Jake? I think his name was Jake.
Great challenge. Just want to point out one thing. That piece.
I was missing it.
Was there the whole time.
Alright. So I'm pretty sure these are 2.5. If I do 2.5 and 2.5, that should be the height that I'm looking for. I'm going for the strategy where I build them off of the thing, compare the heights, and then set them in to make sure that we're looking good. That way it's easier to take pieces if I screw up, which undoubtedly I will. Shapes here are not the easiest to work with. Not all perfectly the same size. So definitely a bit of added challenge from that. Yeah, I think I got the first tier down. Right, so this and this would be the same height. Perfect. Okay. First tier, not so bad. Problem here might be getting these to stay stacked up, considering I didn't, do a perfect job cutting everything. So we'll see if we can get this to actually stay. But there ends tier 1. Second bag. I'm gonna try and slide this over just so I got more room to work with here, because I want to make sure that I'm building everything before I put it on there. I think that's a pretty good strategy. I think it's pretty helpful. Do you think I can just stack? Let's see, these are 1.5, so these are 1, so I can stack 5 of these and that should get me the right height. It's not gonna be the most stable structure on the planet. But that's not something you really need to worry about in actual Survivor. We need a tower of toilet paper over here. Is that not the right height? That doesn't look like it's the right height. No. Are these 1.5s? These are 1.5s, not 1s. Maybe. No, that's shorter. How is that shorter? Oh, because that's one of these. It's not the same one. That's the same height. Yeah. Okay. So if I... Wait, what? If I do that one more time, that's the same height. And I've got these, but I've got 6. Did I mess something up? I've got 6 of them that are the same height, and I've got 3 pieces left over. Did I miscount when I put them in the bags? Alright, hold on. Pause the timer. Pause the timer. Did I miscount when I put them in the... Alright, resume the timer. I realized all of this is wrong. Yeah, no, all of those may have been the same height, but they were shorter than these. They were shorter than they were supposed to be. So this is the height that we're looking for. It's unfortunate when you have it at such a smaller scale. I think Survivor is probably double this scale, so if you can save up for several months and make all this double the scale, it'll probably work out a bit better. But I just didn't have the patience for that. So this is the height that I'm looking for now. So let's try and fix that. I really order these in terms of size. I think that would actually be quite helpful. Here's the last one. There we go. Alright. Tier 2 done. Now I just have to really hope that I don't knock this entire thing over as I try and stack this. If I do, I think I'm just going to continue on. I know in Survivor, if you knock something over, you're done. But in Survivor, they don't use really misshapen toilet paper rolls for this challenge. They use heavy wooden blocks that are less likely to fall over. So I don't feel bad about continuing on if I accidentally knock the whole thing over, which I almost just did, because that is not normally a problem in this challenge. Not saying it couldn't happen, I just don't think we've ever seen it happen, so have to be real clumsy to be the first. Okay. What are the odds this whole thing falls over when I put this on top? Cool. Alright, final tier. Really hope my upstairs neighbor's footsteps aren't picking up on camera. It's bad enough that I have to hear it every single day. I don't want my audience to have to hear it too. Organized in terms of height. So now if we think about what we have here, these are 1s, 1.5, 2. Okay, so let's see. We do 2s. We do like what, 2, 2, 1? That'll get us 5. 2, 2, and 1. So that is the height that we're looking for. Just want to confirm. And not knock the whole tower over, but yes, that looks similar in height. So there's that. So now things get a little tricky. So let's see. So we always need to couple multiple 1.5s together, right? Because in order to end in not a 0.5, 1.5 and 1.5 always come together to make 3, and then we only need 2 more. So if these are 2s, then a 2 and a 1.5 and a 1.5 will make the right height. I can do another one of those because we've got a lot of 1.5. This is a 1. This is a 1.5, so a 2, a 1.5, and a 1.5. And then our remaining pieces, those come together to make a 3. Bingo, bongo. All of those are done. Just need to put them on top and pray that the whole thing doesn't fall over. It is not sturdy. It is very much not sturdy. Again, these are the problems that you're not going to have on Survivor because they actually construct all of their puzzles well because they have a budget. I do not have a budget. This is not my job. This is a hobby. Okay. And then final piece, put it on top, and that is time. Oh, I almost forgot. Anytime that you solve this puzzle, well, that was kind of a lame kick, but you have to kick it over. It's tradition. All right, so for my first time attempting this puzzle, that wasn't that bad. I honestly expected to do a lot worse. I think that the fact that I constructed this puzzle myself definitely gave me a leg up on how to solve it. Since I had to measure and cut each piece for each tier, I knew the exact length that each of my columns had to be. So for example, each of my columns had to be 5 inches based on the measurements that I cut. So knowing that and knowing the size of all of my pieces, I could just do some math in my head and add them up to see if something would work or not. And I wouldn't have to waste time stacking them to see that's not the right height or that is the right height. I could just add up the numbers and know for a fact. Now, I mentioned earlier that Survivor probably doesn't use the same scale as me. Theirs is probably twice as large. But you can still use the numbers that I used to do the math part. Even if each piece is double or triple the height, they're all the same proportion. So you can still call your smallest piece 1, and then your next biggest 1.5, next biggest 2, 2.5, and 3. And even if those aren't the size in inches, you can still use those proportions and know they need to add up to 5. So when I'm putting these pieces together, I need to add up to 5 units, we'll call them. Another thing that I did, I think starting on the second tier, was lay out all of my pieces by size. In addition to making it easier to find the piece that I'm looking for, separating them by size also helps you out with the math part, knowing, all right, if I need to add up to 5, and I've got this many of this, this many of this, this many of this, how can I use those pieces properly to make sure that whatever I'm left with also adds up to 5? For example, in the second tier, I believe, I had a lot of 1.5s, and those were the only pieces that ended in a 0.5. So I knew that every single stack had to have at least 2 of those because 5 doesn't end in 0.5. So I needed those to even out to 3. And once I figured that out, I'm like, all right, 3 can combine with a 2, or it can combine with 2 1s, and that'll give me the full stack. So all things considered, I think by building this puzzle, I kind of learned a lot about it. If you are someone who's considering being on Survivor, I would definitely recommend trying to build some of these puzzles yourself, because you can see things in a light that you maybe wouldn't have had you just gone in blind. I'm sure there are plenty of ways that you can improve upon the design that I did here. I definitely noticed when I started stacking them that not all of my cuts were equal. I had a lot of shakiness, a lot of unevenness. I'm honestly surprised that the whole thing stayed up. But it did, so it worked. An improvement that I might make if I had more time and more patience next time would be to cut little circles to tape to the top and bottom of the tubes to make them more flat. So if you're looking for a better version of my puzzle, maybe try doing that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do end up trying this yourself, let me know in the comments how it goes. And if you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And if you work at CBS, give me a call. Thanks, everyone.